Bibb County parents are voicing their concerns after Weaver Middle School students had to stand outside for several hours due to a fire alarm malfunction earlier this week. Tonight, Brianna Cook has more on the parents' concerns and what school leaders are saying. Brianna, what are they both saying?
Amanda, parents say their children are now traumatized due to a large number of students passing out in the heat, and some were even hospitalized.
The children emergency room was filled with kids. The regular emergency room at Piedmont was full.
On Tuesday, the aftermath of a fire alarm that would not stop has now left a scar on several Weaver Middle School students. According to a letter sent by the Bibb County school system, the alarm went off around 9:45 a.m. 15 minutes later, the alarm would not stop, and Macon Bibb fire officials advised it was unsafe for students to re-enter the building, which means students had to stand outside until further notice. With a heat index of 100 degrees that day and over an hour outside, students began to pass out. Lorinka Stevens has a 12-year-old daughter who attends the school. She says her daughter's caseworker notified her that her daughter was being taken to the hospital.
The only thing that I remember hearing her say was EMS. And I was like, what? I know she really needed me there when she first got there. And when I walked in the room, I don't think she did. She bust out crying. For me to be in a panic, my child to be in a panic, for my child to feel scared, for her to even say that she don't want to go back to school.
Parents expressed the school did not notify them until the situation got bad. Stevens says the school could have done more to prevent such fallout.
If you know them children been outside that long, and you know it's hot, y'all should have, after 30 minutes, y'all should have been trying to do something to make sure everybody was cool and comfortable. They were such in a panic about the alarm when they should have been more concerned about the kids.
Tia Taylor also has a 12-year-old daughter who was in attendance that day. She says her daughter is now traumatized from the mass number of people in need of medical assistance.
She counted on her hands that 20 people fell out. She said she's looking, people just passing out. Teachers passing out.
In a letter sent to parents, district officials say students were given water, but Taylor says the letter is partially incorrect.
Yes, it is incorrect. True enough, students was getting water once they entered the building, once they re-entered the building. But she said they had to ask for it.
Stephen believes the school should also cover the cost of medical bills since her child is not at fault.
That accidental insurance thing that they be trying to get folks to sign up for, I think that should be thrown away when it's at the school's fault. So for them to be talking about they running her insurance, no, you need to pay Medicaid back because that wasn't her fault, that was y'all fault.
I did reach out to the Bibb County school system the day of the incident. After several emails, they referred me to the letter that they sent to parents. To read more of the letter, visit our website at WGXA.tv. Reporting live in studio, Brianna Cook, WGXA News.
Thank you, Brianna. One young man in Bibb County now faces 40 years behind bars after pleading guilty to multiple crimes he committed between the ages of 15 and 17, including the shooting death of his own brother. Robert Ottman, who's now 20 years old, pleaded guilty to 2 robberies, aggravated assault, and voluntary manslaughter. He committed 2 robberies in 2019. Then, at 17 years old, he shot and killed his brother during a family dispute. Ottman has been sentenced to a total of 40 years in prison, with the first 20 years to be served behind bars. And the Georgia Bureau of Investigations announces 26 arrests after a statewide child exploitation operation. 3 of those are suspects in Middle Georgia. Operation Sneaky Peach lasted 3 months and targeted online sharing of child sexual abuse materials and suspects that were planning to meet with underage users online. 34 search warrants were issued and over 280 electronics were seized. The GBI says more arrests could come as the investigations continue. And in Peach County, 38-year-old Timothy Reeves will spend the next decade behind bars. He pleaded guilty to 2 counts of child molestation in connection to the 2020 molestation of a 9-year-old victim. Reeves was sentenced to 15 years, the first 10 to be served in prison, and will be required to register as a sex offender for life. In another case out of Peach County sees a man sentenced to 30 years. 37-year-old Clinton Mitchell Jr. pleaded guilty to meth trafficking and firearm possession charges in the Peach Superior Court. A search warrant uncovered a large quantity of meth in his home back in May, and he was sentenced to 30 years, with the first decade to be spent in prison. A federal judge rules former Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani is liable of defaming two Georgia election workers. Ruby Freeman and her daughter, Wandrea Shea Moss, say Giuliani defamed them by falsely claiming they tampered with ballots during Georgia's vote counting process. The ruling was issued after Giuliani failed to turn over discovery information requested by Freeman and Moss as part of their lawsuit. It means the case will move toward a trial and determine how much money he'll have to pay in damages. Freeman and Moss say they went through a, quote, wave of hatred and threats because of Giuliani's comments. All new at 5, an ongoing effort to bring attention to endangered sites in Macon that played a significant role in the city's history. We're talking about Historic Macon's Fading 5 list, and today there are 5 new sites saved from the chopping block. Historic Macon Foundation began bringing attention to endangered and significant sites across Macon in 2015. This all through their Fading 5 program. In 2014, 2 historic buildings, Tremont Temple Baptist Church and the former Charles H. Douglas home, were both lost to commercial development, which brought about the initiative. Today, Historic Macon revealed new historic building they would like to be saved. Our Carlos Stevens is standing by live from where the announcement was made earlier today. And Carlos, how many historic buildings are they looking to save?
Well, Amanda, after talking to the Director of Communications for Historic Macon, he tells me there are about 5 buildings they're looking to revive. Historic Macon's Fading 5 program is nearly a decade old. It's designed to save historically significant properties in Bibb County from development or neglect. A Neglect Historic Macon Executive Director Nathan Lott says the community doesn't need.
The future of Macon and Bibb County is going to be rooted in its rich past, right? And in its people.
Their list grew by 5 more Thursday. Historic Macon says the sites on this year's list are important to Macon community in their own right. The D.T. Walton Building, the Dr. Greenhouse, the Willingham McBrilty House, the First National Bank and Trust Company, and the Roxy Theater are all a part of this year's Fading 5 list. The D.T. Walton office was formerly owned by Macon's leading dentist and civil rights activist, and it's also been on the National Register of Historic Places since 1982. To date, Historic Macon has listed 18 properties. In all, 13 of them have been saved. According to Historic Macon, properties remain on the list until they are no longer under threat. I asked Lott, what does threat look like when it comes to the structures?
Basically deferred maintenance, and if a building sits vacant and isn't being actively maintained over time, it's at risk every time we have a severe storm.
According to Historic Macon, they have helped keep hundreds of homes for almost 60 years. They say the Fading 5 program is another tool to help promote the rich and diverse heritage of Macon. That's one reason why Tanja Kabir recently bought the Bobby Jones Performing Arts Center, which was on the Fading 5 list in 2020. Kabir says she had her eyes on the building since 2017, but she's always had a goal in mind even before the purchase.
I've always been interested in moving toward how can I connect the community to culture.
And fast forward to now, she's one step closer to making that connection. In fact, she already has a name for the building, Jones Cafe. She says she not only plans to give the building new life, but also plans to bring back the rich history, a history that Kabir says will enlighten the people.
Who they are, where they came from, really understanding history and having a level of pride in themselves.
Now, Kabir added she expects the building to be completed in about a year. We're live here in Macon. I'm Carlos Stevens, WGXA News.
Well, after braving Hurricane Idalia yesterday, some much better news is on the horizon today as temperatures are back down. Chief Meteorologist Ryan Stinnett joins me now to tell me it's not as miserable as it usually is.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, we usually can be in the mid-90s this time of day, only in the mid to upper 80s. I'll take that. Certainly compared to the heat we've been dealing with, it looking good in Macon. Clouds really starting to give way to some blue sky and sunshine this evening on our Wilson Bryant Heating and Air Skycast network. We got low 90s, 91 up in Sparta, 91 in McRae, but 89 in Montezuma, 86 in Gray, and 85 up in Monticello. Clear scan of the radar across middle Georgia this evening, and this evening should be relatively dry. We'll go from the 80s, dropping into the 70s, and overall a pretty decent night. Tomorrow and the weekend, things start to change. How about lower humidity for Labor Day? I'll have those details coming up.
Sounds great to me. Now is a great time to download the WGXA weather app to keep track of your local weather down to your specific location. Just scan the QR code on your screen to download the free app on your smart device, and we'll have your 10-day forecast in a bit. Hurricane Idalia blew through Tybee Island yesterday, bringing winds of nearly 70 miles per hour. Meteorologist Ryan Miranda was on Tybee Island from start to finish and is back on the island today with a much different looking view. Ryan?
A lot has happened since we got here on Tuesday afternoon to extreme high winds upwards of 69 miles per hour per the National Weather Service. That's just 5 miles per hour shy of hurricane force winds that was blowing around all of the sand into our faces and our skin, which honestly did hurt quite a lot. For now, though, we're finally back in the sunshine. Already getting a little taste of what could be happening tomorrow. There's dark storm clouds in this distance. It's been very gusty here on the beach. Some people, though, are actually enjoying some of the waves before the storms arrive. But right now, we're dealing with winds easily upwards of 50 miles per hour. Ryan, I'll toss it back to you in the studio. Right now, the winds are the huge story. These are easily tropical storm winds, potentially hurricane force, but with the center of circulation being directly over us, that brings out the strongest winds, and it's also really blowing up a sandstorm. Trying to walk out here on the beach, the sand is just blowing in your face. Hopefully things will begin to calm down as the storm continues to push north and east. We do also have a rare blue supermoon tonight. High tide around 8:21, expected to be upwards of 9 feet. Hopefully that won't cause too much flooding. Sandstorm out here on Tybee Island on the beaches. The water is very rough. These winds are just knocking me completely over with how strong they are. It's definitely not a good idea to be out here. I can't even keep my head up because the winds are so strong out here and it is blowing the sand directly into my face. I'm also holding a towel across my legs because this sand, when it pushes you back, it completely hurts. You can see that the sand, it's like a sandstorm that is out here right now. It is just whipping all of this sand up on our skin. It is feeling like needles, and these winds certainly feel a hurricane force. I'm having trouble even keeping myself held up. Earlier this afternoon, 4, 5, 6 o'clock was really when it was over Savannah and Tybee Island, when the winds were very high. The National Weather Service reported a peak wind gust of 69 miles per hour. That is now are looking much more tranquil out here. Just look at this shot. It's actually pretty spectacular out here now. Beautiful sunrise. The waves are very comfortable. We have a nice cool light breeze. And luckily things are much more quieter now. We still do have a little bit of a breeze out here, but the beachgoers out on the beach are not taking another day off. They're getting back some of that they missed yesterday, soaking up the nice rays and feeling the nice warm water. Reporting in Tybee Island, I'm Ryan Miranda.
Idalia has swept away from the South Carolina coast, and the storm that hit the Palmetto State with tropical storm force winds. But the real story in the low country was flooding that came during an astronomical high tide. Webb Wright spent the day on Edisto Beach, about an hour south of Charleston, where many roads were left covered in sand.
So cleanup continues here on Edisto Beach, and for the residents, I know they're tired of it. They're just ready for life to get back to normal and be able to get back to enjoying the beach.
The crew's going to gather up all the sand and just put it right back there on the beach. It's a pretty interesting process because at some points they're actually even just taking shovels and throwing them up into the dump truck. But yeah, so they're going to take all that sand that was on the beach, we're going to move it back over there to the beach and just put it back in its rightful place.
SCDOT was out there last night doing their rounds, seeing where they had to scrape and what they had to do. They got stuck a couple of times. The fire truck got stuck, so they knew what they had to do. So I was very impressed with that, and the power came back on really well. I don't think that they could have done anything better than what they have. Kind of felt last night like summer was done. You know, with the hurricane coming, we were afraid that, you know, it probably that was the last of it. So I'm hoping once they get things straightened up and cleared up, it won't affect our Labor Day.
The town is using pumps to push away high water from several side roads, and earlier today, town leaders asked people to avoid portions of Palmetto Boulevard. That's the main drag just off the water. They mentioned a lot of sand and debris that had to be cleared. Officials say Colleton County was helping DOT with the process. They say there's definitely beach damage. They're assessing the situation along with the town's coastal engineers. As the cleanup continues on the streets, the beach, as you can see behind me, it's looking pretty good. And as officials told us, they expect the cleanup to be done by later today. And that means Edisto Beach will be back and ready to party for the Labor Day weekend. I'm Webb Wright reporting on Edisto Beach.
Right now, there are thousands of children in foster care in limbo being temporarily housed in hotels, and the bottom line is that there are more children than families willing to take them in. According to the Georgia Department of Human Services, so far in 2023, there were over 97,000 calls for maltreatment of children. Of those calls, a vast majority of children will be placed in the foster care system. Director of Hope and Foster Care and Adoption, Beth Green, says the alarms have been blaring for more people willing to foster.
Roughly 6,000 foster homes in Georgia. So you look at the 13,000 to 14,000 kids in foster care, 6,000 foster homes, it's a crisis. Now, the greatest need is for families who are willing and able to care for teenagers, large sibling groups, and by large sibling groups, that's 3 or more siblings, 3 or more, and children with unique behavioral challenges.
It's a tricky problem that Green says if we don't solve, will almost guarantee higher rates of dropouts. If you would like to learn more on how you can help, visit our website, WGXA.tv.
Rounding out the week tomorrow, Friday bus stop forecast will be pretty decent. Temperatures in the 70s tomorrow morning. We'll have more clouds and sunshine throughout the day. Got a little front that's going to push through. Unfortunately, I think it keeps us dry, but it will keep our temperatures down and lower humidity rolling into the weekend. And then the rest of tomorrow will feature a lot more clouds and sunshine at times. Of course, as we roll into the Labor Day weekend, the weather, it's going to be dry and comfortable. That's certainly some good news. Labor Day can usually be very stormy, very hot and humid, and we'll be hot and mainly dry next week as well. We're not done with those summer temperatures. We're going to see mid-90s back next week. Tomorrow afternoon, a few storms are certainly possible, but those are really going to be confined to South and West Georgia, but would not be surprised if you decide to pop up across Middle Georgia. Again, we got this boundary pushing south. As it does, it'll squeeze out a few showers and storms, but back behind that drier, less humid air mass will settle into most of Georgia, if not all the way down towards the Gulf Coast as we head into the weekend. And again, drier air means lower humidity, and you'll feel that especially during the overnight and in the early mornings. Rain chances not too promising. Now, we'll have scattered showers and storms tomorrow, but over the weekend, almost dry conditions. I got rain chances less than 10%. Next week, a few pop-up afternoon showers and storms will return as moisture levels try to increase, but you know how it is. You get into September and October, it becomes very dry across much of the deep south. That's our driest time of the year. Tropics remain active. There's Tropical Storm Idalia. We got Hurricane Franklin, Tropical Storm Jose, remnants of what was Tropical Storm Gert, and then we got another area off the African coast. It's called Invest, which means it's an area of investigation that the Hurricane Center will be watching, but even it is expected to move off towards the north. If it were to develop, it would be our next storm system. The K name, Katia, followed by Lee, Margot, Nigel, and Ophelia, but hopefully no more storms. What we're talking about, plenty of sunshine tomorrow at times, a few isolated storms, 85 degrees for Macon. Now, area-wide, temperatures will vary. I think Macon will be one of the warmer spots, but you get over into our western counties, temperatures will be in the 70s most of the day due to the cloud cover. We'll get some low 80s off towards the east. High school football forecast for tomorrow night. Temperatures much cooler than they have been, falling from the 70s into the 60s in relatively dry conditions. Your 10-day forecast, we'll see plenty of sunshine over the weekend. Overnight lows into the low 60s. By Labor Day, lower 90s will return, and then we see those mid-90s returning next week. And finally, your Harris's Body Shop fishing game forecast peaks at 3:20 a.m. and then again at 3:40 p.m. in the excellent range.
One mid-state school band will showcase their talents after getting some regional recognition. Bon Air Middle School Band will perform in the Southeastern Regional Concert Festival. It's one of only 7 middle school bands to be invited and the only one south of Atlanta. The band is made up of 7th and 8th graders, and band director Leah Williams says she could not be prouder of her students. And a weekend for the arts in Macon starts tonight as the Douglas Theater hosts the 2023 Atlanta Black Theater Festival. The 3-day event will offer unique plays and film screenings, plus hear from guest speakers and even check out a creative arts conference. Poet Tony Simmons started the Black Theater Festival as a way to celebrate Black actors and works that showcase Black experiences. The festival gets started with an African drum ceremony tonight at the Douglas Theater. You can get tickets for the events at the theater box office.
Well, good afternoon, everyone.
Okay,
I'm Gary Thigpen. I'm here again today at the Humane Society of Houston County in Warner Robins. And as we said yesterday, we normally do dogs on this segment, but we now have a couple of cats we're going to show you. And today we have another cat, Slate. And I'm going to let Dee tell you about Slate.
Well, Slate came in the other day, was in the middle of the road, and we've been getting a lot of the middle of the road, in the ditch, in the dumpster, you name it.
Oh my goodness.
That's what's going on. They're disposable at this point. Got a little growing to do. Our kitties are not available till they're 8 weeks old, so this one's probably breathing down the neck of 5, and
pretty.
He will be available once we get him bedded and everything done.
Look at that pretty little face, and you said about 5 weeks old now?
Yes, right at. Yes.
And when he gets about 8 weeks, we'll be able to be adopted. So if someone wants to go ahead and put their name in and get on the list to adopt Slate when he is 8 weeks old, how would they do that?
They would go on our website and fill out our application process. It does take 7 to 10 days to process. And like I said, you can go ahead and do that and note which animal that you're interested in.
All right. Let's go ahead and do that. Look at this sweet little boy. Look at that beautiful face. Slate. Let's find him a really good home. Thank you so much, Dee.
Thank you.
Cheese as a delicacy is more than tasting divine. It's apparently used in divining your future. Chicago resident Jennifer Billock is a practitioner of the art of tyromancy, which is fortune telling through observations about you in cheese. The practice dates to the Middle Ages when divination was an accepted practice to predict the future. Billock says she studies patterns in cheese to see what's ahead for her clients. She says when her clients hear their futures from her, they always come away believers.
Every piece of cheese has something it can tell you about the cheese itself and also about you.
Billock says studying various aspects of the cheese, such as depth, type of mold, and scent, can be helpful in predicting different things in a future. You know, Ryan Stinnett, if you give me a block of cheese, I can tell you your future as well.
I'm going to be constipated.
You don't need to eat it.
What else do you do with cheese?
Obviously, tell the future.
No, but I don't know how that works, because it would have to be cheese that you make. It can't just be like a random farmer. Maybe she's telling you.
Probably from Publix.
Oh, well, we're going to Publix after this, and I'm going to bring in some cheese tomorrow.
That's what I'm saying. I can go to Kroger for you, and I can read your future later.
No, because you'll buy the most expensive block of cheese. You'll be like the wheel that's like $400.
I don't like cheese that much. I'll get the little one of the one that I like. I'll tell your future, then I'll eat it.
Well, it's all about you.
No, I just said I was going to tell your future.
Yeah. It's going to come in with a bite mark in it.
Oh, no. That's it for WGXA News at 5:30. We invite you to join us at 6 on ABC 16.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have an amazing Thursday evening, Middle Georgia.